Welcome to the Resonance podcast. This is episode 2. My name's Swarit.
My name is Medha.
My name is Natalie.
And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about how AI impacts healthcare. So let's get down some facts straight away. This is from The Guardian. Around 86% of healthcare in the US use AI. This is a very large amount, especially for an economy like USA. So I think this shouldn't just be limited to the US. This should be international, something that can come to the UK. Let's get started. So what are the actual uses of AI in healthcare?
So basically, AI is mainly used in analyzing X-ray images, for example, mammograms, to support radiologists in making better assessments for patients. This also frees up radiologists' time so they can spend more time with patients to have more clinical contact and to screen more number of patients directly and more quickly.
Yeah, I mean, that is one really good point. But so if I go back onto the point, it frees up time. I mean, that's a big advantage of AI because essentially not every doctor can attend every patient at the same time. You can have AI possibly doing all the costs and database stuff where you don't essentially need a doctor for that. For example, you've got the receptionist. I mean, you don't really need a receptionist 24/7. You just need doctors on there, and then you've got the AI which can do it itself. So you've got the doctors and they're getting salary paid, and that basically comes out of our taxes, the ones we pay. So if we've got doctors focusing less time on actual patient, like for work, for database stuff, you can get less hours which you have to pay the doctors, which at the end reduces our taxes, which could be a possibility. Another one is AI. If you look out of databases, you can also suppose you've got ChatGPT. Nowadays you've got many different types of AI bots. Like you've got MathGPT. So if you look out of the databases and what AI can actually help, you can actually create an AI chatbot like ChatGPT, or nowadays you've got MathGPT. Like you've got a chatbot specific for a field or subject. You can do that with AI. You've got general doctors who are working in the GPs, which maybe at max they check if you got a cough or cold or something a bit more serious, which you don't always need at times. You just need the specialist doctors. This is where AI can help and step in. You can get an AI. You just talk to the chatbot, give them your description of what your illness is, and if it's something like a cough or cold, which in winter it's pretty common, you just get the chatbot to tell you what the problem is, and you can just give you medicines that you need.
It can probably encourage people with busy schedules to reach out for help as well, because it's increase the speed as well already from AI, and it can kind of act as a barrier for overusing healthcare services, as it encourage people to pause and reflect on their own symptoms before rushing to services like A&E, so it's less pressured by the use of AI.
Yeah. On this, another benefit you can have of using AI chatbots is you don't have to go to the hospital itself. You can go, if this happens, you can suppose you have NHS. On their website you've got, so what GP you're linked to. Suppose Wokingham, you're linked to Wokingham's GP, and from that you just got to book an appointment, which is maybe a 15-20 minute time slot, which allows you to just use that time and ask the chatbot whatever problems you have. I mean, not only does it save the commute time, the travel between you going to the hospital, and sometimes you got to be honest, at times you might just have a cold and cough and you feel let's just go to the GP and do it. So it decreases the overuse of GPs and doctors. So now we've all been through the stage where you've got maybe a small sickness and it's been 4 or 5 days and it's not curing or it's not healing up. You want to call the doctor and just see if there's anything wrong, but 99% of the time nothing's actually wrong. It's just a small cough or cold. Which at the end, I don't know about you, but I've searched up like, okay, I've got a cold and it's been like for 5-6 days, and I searched that up on Google, and 90% of the time Google is not the most accurate. It might, because sometimes it might just say, okay, you've got 5 days to live, you're gonna die. Now that is like really unfactual. So it also frees up space from the doctors, like the doctor time slots they have, like doctors each have time slots, so it saves time on that.
I think adding to that point would probably be, it also reduces physician burnout and improves doctors' mental health, and can help them work longer in the sense it's a more sustainable alternative in the future.
Yeah, you can have the specialist chatbots dealing with the low danger patients. Then you've got the specialist doctors, maybe like a big hospital, who can, like, people who actually have a problem, like if they've broken their hand or if it's like a serious thing, the doctors can look at that instead of just if you've got a cough and cold.
So another use of AI in healthcare is in an emerging subset of neurotechnology. So it's basically called brain-computer interfaces. So these are systems which use AI models to provide an alternative avenue of movement for paralytic patients. So this can help them interact with their surroundings, for example, moving a prosthetic limb or like an exoskeleton without any muscular interaction or any physical movement. So it's essentially, the paralytic patient is interacting with their surroundings purely through their thoughts. And basically, the workings behind this is basically these systems bypass standard neuromuscular pathways by collecting brain signals through a surgically implanted electrode. This is typically on the grey matter in the cerebral cortex in the brain. And they run these signals through a machine learning model. The machine learning model recognizes patterns in brain signals and relays them to an output device like said prosthetic limb. And this subset of neurotechnology is currently making huge strides in healthcare. It's pulling investment from major companies like Apple, who have released a HID to transfer brain signals from a patient to an iPhone or an iPad. So allowing them to control this without any physical movement whatsoever. So this is a really interesting thing that's coming up.
So obviously, this is a good point you mentioned, brain-computer interfaces. I mean, if you look at this from another perspective, it's AI. It's like basically it's AI-powered neurotech, and it can also have economic implications, because if you didn't have this, you would have had a nurse or someone attending that patient. So again, it goes back to the point that it reduces the constant care. Maybe you can have like one nurse around, maybe observe 3 or 4 patients at a time. So it allows like nurses to be in places where they're more needed. It's like the economic concept of efficient allocation of resources. Like if you see, I think we've all been through COVID and the pandemic. So, and basically there was a shortage of doctors at a time. So if you've got something like that in AI, which can maybe monitor 3 or 4 patients at a time, maybe you need only one nurse looking at them instead of one nurse and one patient. It frees up nurses, and you can scale like hospitals way bigger. Yeah, I mean, this could also allow like, if the patient can also attend like physical activities. I mean, I'm assuming, I don't know much, but I'm assuming the patients would have been at home almost most of the day. And if you've got a good enough progress, you can have like, you can engage in normal activities. Suppose you've got a child who's maybe aged 10 years old. Maybe he can attend some education. I mean, not going full in and hard, but like some basic education, because you don't want to, like, the child's young, you don't want to stop him. And basically you want to allow the person to live like a normal person's life. I mean, when I say normal person, I mean in medical terms, this is within normal limits. Like, so like someone like us or you can like walk and do the basic needs of humans. So I think you made a point on how I think Apple is developing something like this. I mean, if you've got like a business or a firm like which is scaled as the size of like Apple, if there's a business doing this at high interest, then this is maybe something really interesting to look into further. And as I said at the start, I said the stat, it's mostly being used in the US. So if you can get this to, like, suppose if you can get this available to the NHS, it would make huge amounts of differences, because we all know like what NHS is like, how bad and how undermanned it is right now at this time.
Let's try.
Yeah.
Yeah, adding on to the overstaffed and overworked doctors and healthcare professionals at the NHS. So I recently went on a work experience at my local hospital, and one other issue that I saw that came up was doctors would spend at least 2 to 3 hours making clinical notes after visiting a patient. So they'd sit there in the office and just type away at their laptop for 2 to 3 hours. So I think one place where AI would be really useful as well is to scribe clinical notes for the doctors, essentially freeing up time and energy, basically, essentially freeing up time so that the healthcare professional or the doctor can go and talk to the patient directly, or it can free up time for any clinical interaction that needs to happen more. There's a multi-site study at University of California, San Francisco on the use of AI scribes on clinical documentation. So basically, they are studying how automatic speech recognition, large language models, and machine learning are being combined to record diagnostic conversations between doctors and patients, and in turn turning them into clinical notes. And the study finds that AI scribes offer more scalability and is already being used by clinicians all across the USA.
So if I go back to your point where you said you saw like doctors taking 2 or 3 hours to just write the paperwork out. Obviously, so there was this concept where you've got you've got the AI, it can write it all out for you. If you've got suppose you've got a 10-minute session with the doctor, if you've got AI listening to what the conversation between the doctor and patient is. I mean, yeah, you'll have some privacy concerns with that, but the doctor is whatever the doctor prescribes. What the AI can directly do, not only can it write it all up in maybe 5 minutes at max. It's not going to take it 2 hours. 5 minutes you can do it. And if you give that if you sometimes get a small piece of paper which has got all the medicines you need, and how often you got to take, and how many 2 medicines at one go, or one after lunch, one after dinner, something like that. And where do you get those medicines from? Because quite often you'd either go to Boots or your nearest pharmacy. So there was this idea where you can have not something like vending machines, where you just input the vending machine the paper the AI has given you and created, and from that the vending machine automatically would take the payment and give you the medicines you need. It would be much easier, because what you do is you leave home, you go to the hospital. From the hospital, it takes half an hour process. It's all done. You wait 15 minutes before, then you go to the appointment. 15 minutes later, you're done. And then after that, you go to the pharmacy. Instead of this can be all done at one place, which saves times. And if it's really important, if you've got really high fever, it can be really impactful. Yeah.
Right now, this can be also seen in England already, where NHS rolled out a system called as High Intensity Use Service, which can be used to support the emergency department. It provides supports to regular A&E visitors, as well as helping them to tackle the root which causes the visits.
Yeah. So if I build back onto the point of A&E, I think we all know it's heavily crowded. Any time you go, you always see people and I've had a past experience with the A&E when I've fractured my hand. So at first, what you might think, it's when I first went there, it was like it's crowded. There's too many people. But I think as a child, I might have gotten maybe a doctor a bit faster. But I don't think that's the case for like every patient. And I think in this sense, again, you can have maybe a bit more efficient nurses, where like suppose you've got when I remember, like we went in, I was sitting on the chair, my dad was filling out the forms and everything, and at that time you had like a nurse who got you to fill out the forms. Instead of that, what you can have is maybe specialized tablets or some sort of electronic device where you can whatever the formalities are, like write your name, the age of the patient, and etc. All of like that. The parent or someone like that can do it itself, and instead of having like 3 or 4 nurses at a reception constantly, not always being the most productive out of their time, they can maybe be used somewhere else.
So from my own experience as well, I think that sometimes AI is not yet capable to consider its other factors such as social economics. Like they wouldn't really consider it's about if the patient is going to be able to afford the cost of the treatment. Well, in comparison, I think that a human profession would be able to provide more other different solutions considering other variables, even including psychological state of the patients.
Again, using AI, you always have a privacy concern with it, and obviously if suppose you get AI and you get it's become worldwide, and if you implement that into healthcare, it doesn't only limit it to the NHS, because you can also have like private healthcare systems where they work independently and they use AI, which at times might be better, maybe better quality. It might give you results which are more accurate, and like obviously you don't pay for the NHS like directly, except taxes. And if you're doing privately, then you have to pay private healthcare, whatever the amount is. And at times I've felt they don't always give you the cheapest option. That's the one. Yeah, they don't give you the cheapest option at times. Suppose you've got someone who's at a 40,000 bracket a year. That person might have private healthcare, but they might not want to take the more expensive treatment option, whereas someone who's maybe earning 150k a year, who can afford some treatments which are higher. Like suppose you've broken your hand. So you get your hand fixed. You get your hand like located back, and in that you've got after that you've got physiotherapy. Obviously physiotherapy would be an additional, which maybe someone in the 40k bracket won't be able to afford, whereas someone in the 150 bracket will. So you would essentially need a database, which can size mass amounts of data, because you wouldn't want your salary bracket being leaked to someone else. So you need to create AI chat base or history which can be secure enough to store data, and like the population is growing. I think we've got like something 8 billion people in the world, and obviously that number is going to increase. So you need to be flexible on the storage that the AI can have, and to what extent does it actually take into your experiences to make your responses better. Like if you've been on ChatGPT, it says you can have personalised answers, or you can turn that off. But I think with healthcare you will most likely have like personalised answers, because like AI chatbots, they won't really learn at the first time. If you give them 1,000 different cases, then they might learn more from that.
So what you're essentially saying is, what you think should be implemented is a centralized database storing all of the, so it's a centralized database for per GP clinic, or per the country, or what do you mean?
Let's take NHS as an example.
Yeah.
You've got many different GPs, and then you've got many different GPs in like different locations. Then maybe for one like suppose for Berkshire you've got the RBH, which is the centralized hospital. I mean, you've got Bracknell Hospital, you've got Wokingham Hospital, but the RBH is like the head. So maybe you can have one big database, and within that database you can have like individual hospitals, and then within those individual hospitals you can have databases for the GPs. So it all stems up, because like obviously suppose I'm living in Wokingham today, maybe in 10 years I might be living in, I don't know, London or Ascot, somewhere else, and if I move there I'm gonna have a different hospital and a GP where I have to like sign up for, and that GP is going to be taking the information and data from my previous GP. So it all has to be linked up. Like suppose you take your Google storage, you only have 15 gigabytes. Someone who maybe might not want to pay for more storage, which is a pain, you might have to create another account. Something like that, in my opinion, shouldn't happen to databases. Like suppose you've got 15 gigabytes limit. Alright, it's been 10 years, we've added up all your history, and we're now not taking anything more. I feel like it shouldn't be like that, like unlimited. And maybe suppose if you've got a more visit for a fracture, like if I back to my story, I had a fracture, but that was like 5 or 6 years ago, and linking that back, I don't think you need it. Like I don't think you need it. If I'm like 25, I don't think the doctors need to know I had a fracture, unless it's like something at a higher scale. Okay,
so you're saying the database should include the salaries of the patients, like the how much.
So what I'm saying is, in databases, like suppose someone's earning 60k, someone's earning 70k, you don't have to have the specific number. I know you can have tax brackets. Suppose you're in that one tax bracket, you can put that in, like you can rank that, maybe like bank A, bank B, bank C. Bank A maybe the higher earners. You can just have that specified down, and then you understand, like the doctors will understand what type of treatment is personalized for them, and the AI chatbot can obviously create that.
But I want to push back on your point. You took the example of RBH.
Yeah.
That's an NHS-run hospital.
Yeah.
So why would an NHS-run hospital need a database with the salaries of their patients or the tax brackets of the patients? Wouldn't the patients feel like it's a data privacy risk?
Yeah, so that's a good point you made. When I was referring to that, I was specifying that for maybe private healthcare, because like you pay that out of your pocket, like out of your taxes. But I mean, I think it shouldn't. I don't think it should be like. I think that could also work in like the NHS, even when it's government funded. Because suppose you've got someone who's maybe living, like for Berkshire, like from here to the RBH is what, 10-15 miles, and maybe someone might not have a car. What are you gonna do? You're not gonna have you're not always gonna have an ambulance, like, and so that's where it comes, where you've got the difference, where if someone has a higher pay and higher tax bracket, you can which people have a car, they can obviously get someone to drive them to the hospital. Whereas if you've got someone with a low tax bracket and maybe they don't have a car, they can maybe get an ambulance to them, because I know ambulances, they don't get called up for like less serious cases like a fracture, because that's not life threatening.
But isn't that taking up resources of the NHS, because you're sending ambulances to non-essential cases like fractures?
So this again links up to the whole point. You use AI, that means less hours for the doctors, that means less pay to the doctors. Now that pay, where does that pay come from? Government. If the government is spending less on if they're spending less on the salaries, maybe they can invest that money into more resources like ambulances and something like that. And another point I want to make on like that if like the doctors are being paid less, you can have because okay, we're on the point of using AI, but how much would it cost to implement AI if you just look at the NHS? NHS has like thousands of hospitals. How would you implement that AI database into a hospital? Because that's expensive. It's not going to be cheap. And just to get the hardware or just to get the software created, you need someone like Apple, some big company, which would not be cheap. So what I also believe is this might initially bring up taxes, which maybe not everyone would like, but you don't really have a choice, because some people might not like AI as much, but it's a foreseeable future. You have to use AI to progress for the future, and that can only come like if you start investing now.
Yeah.
I do agree on that point, but I do think that there's some main IT concern right now on data security as well. So it could be unauthorized data use or anything, and we're not sure if patients going to actually give the data to the healthcare services, as well as we don't actually know where the data go. So I feel like there should be like better guidelines on those if this is like...
Yeah, because obviously if you're implementing AI and something at such a huge scale, just for the NHS, it would require, first of all, you need huge amounts of fundings, and once you've got that fundings, then the government can then they can proceed with the procedure to like go to a company like Apple and tell them, yeah, okay, now manufacture an AI chatbot for us, or a system that can store all of these data, and once you've got that, then you can start implementing it into hospitals. Then it goes into the infrastructure. So yes, that would not take a short amount of time. That would take maybe few decades, and then only once you've got the fundings, then you buy the chatbot, and then you still have your taxes at high, but for the infrastructure for each hospital. But then at the end, this is going to happen sometime. If it's not now, it's going to be later. So I feel like rising taxes will always happen, and you can't escape that.
So AI is being used in healthcare, and it is happening now. The revolution, as they say, the AI revolution, it is happening now. But I think in the long term, as you say, I don't think AI should replace healthcare professionals, because healthcare professionals bring a certain degree of expertise to the table that the any AI model cannot bring, other than speed of diagnosis. I think doctors, like physical humans, have much more to offer. I think overuse of AI can lead to a loss of ethical responsibility from doctors, as they become too reliant on AI models to make diagnoses for them. Also, it is the doctor-patient relationship which forms the core basis of high-quality healthcare systems, and is built on trust, empathy, confidence in the doctor during a time of vulnerability for the patients, and mutual respect. Using large language models and AI to make this diagnosis could probably mean compromising this level of trust, leading to doctors becoming complacent, perhaps, causing patients to feel unheard, and it's a whole other cycle. And this could potentially reduce therapeutic benefits of the doctor-patient relationship, which is often vital for a speedy and excellent recovery.
Yeah, I totally agree. AI can't replace everyone. It might replace maybe the front line, which don't have a massive impact into the patient. Like if you've got a doctor who's got several PhDs, and suppose they've got 20 years of experience, they know what they're doing most often. So you can't really replace them. Yeah, so if I go back to your point, this is slightly off topic, but there was this article I was reading, it was by LSE, and it was the implementation of robot tax. Because obviously you've got, I think it was around 75% of UK businesses have started, or they're exploring to use AI. What does that essentially do? If you're laying off workers and you're adding AI, it's a fixed term cost. It's one-time cost. Maybe you won't really need AI. Like suppose, for an example, you've got £500. It might cost 500 to buy like the AI and all of that, but you won't really need to pay it every month like you pay workers. So the idea of a robot tax is you tax companies that use robots, because where's all of that money going to? It's going to go to the government. And if you've got less income tax, which is paid to the government, affects many other factors, which is like a different story. But out of the money the government gets from the taxes, it again links into healthcare and the NHS. So I mean, it's all the circular flow of income. It's all the circle. It's all gonna go out and come out to the same place. Yeah. So yeah, that was episode 2 of Resonance. Hope you guys like that.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. All right. Bye.